I think that's the reason why, like, I don't think I could marry or date a Filipino. I think that's why I've, like, told myself, "No, they're not attractive to me," is because of that. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Feelings to Unfold podcast. I'm Christina.
Hi, Maribel.
I hope everyone had a great holidays and they're starting really fresh and new. Um, last week or our last two episodes, we talked about the holiday seasons, the memories, the traditions we have with our families and friends, even for ourselves. It was a really special episode. It feels like because of the holiday season. This week I thought we should go with a little bit more personal for ourselves and kind of continue talking about family because it always feels like that's such a big conversation that not a lot of people really talk about because it's pretty personal and sometimes it's just really hard to really talk about how much family can influence just yourself. So Maribel, I would love to ask you, how much do you think your family has influenced the decisions you've made for yourself?
Honestly, I think that my family influences me a lot. Ever since I was a kid, I'm pretty sure everything that they either would like say or how they would react to things would influence me. Like when I was younger, if I wanted to buy something and then one of my family members would be like, "Oh, I don't know, like I don't think you should buy that." But if it was something that I really wanted, I would end up changing my mind because I'd be like, "Okay, yeah, like I won't get it then." And then later on, I'd regret it and be like, "Oh, I did really want it. I should have got it."
Yeah, no.
So, in ways like that, I think they really do influence me. I mean, other ways too, but that's just an example.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Like, I want to say that, yeah, it's since I was a kid, but it feels like it still influences me today, like now, as
Me
much as
too.
it did back then. Like, I don't want to think it does because, like, I don't want to feel like, they, like, kind of make the decisions for me. But it's sad to say it really does. Like, I know, like, yeah, whenever, like, I go shopping and if I, like, let's say, like, I love these, like, pair of shoes, you know, and, like, I don't know, like, if, like, my mom or someone who's with me says, "Oh, it looks funny on your feet," or like, "Oh, you make it look like this, blah blah blah," and I'm just like, "Oh, okay, well, it's okay. I guess I didn't really like it that much." Like,
Yeah,
I'll, like,
like you
ground
convince
myself.
yourself.
Yeah, I convince myself they're right, and, like, it kinda, like, brings my mood of, like, I guess I don't really like it that much. And then, like, I'll agree with them, like, "Yeah, I guess you're right." Or, like, it's just so it's, like, it's really tough because like, sometimes, like, I'll really want something or even not even just buying something. I think even, like, to do something, like, I think for me, I get influenced really easily. So if someone tells me it's like, "Oh, you know, I don't think that's a good idea." Like, "Oh, I don't think it's good for you to do that." Then I'll be like, "Okay, yeah, I guess you're right. I guess I won't." And it really sucks. Like it kind of brings you a little down also
Yeah.
in a way, you know? At
To
least for
me,
me.
I started to like, or I tried to start really just like living for myself and not like worrying about what anyone else is gonna think. I started asking myself, what do I want? Because I realized that I let people's opinions really influence mine too much. So was kind of hoping that I would break out of that. And since I finally, I mean, I always was aware of it, but now that I have finally decided, like, oh, I'm really gonna just do what I want to do for myself, and I'm not gonna worry about what other people say or think about it. But I'm still working on it. It's kind of hard.
No, I feel you. Like I mean, I think that's the exact same place I'm in right now in my life. It feels like I'm really trying my hardest, even though it's super hard to try to really focus on myself. Like the past couple years, I feel like I've always focused my intentions to other people. Like I
Yeah.
focused my full attention to like my ex, and then I focused it with my sister, and then I focused it on my parents for a little bit, and then like now I finally feel like it's the right I mean, it feels like I should have been focusing on myself for a really long time, but for where I'm at in my life right now, it feels like, okay, I guess I could really focus on me and like do what I actually want to do that actually makes me happy, or at least try to find something that makes me happy and like not think about what others people say, what other people think. But there's those moments where it's just like, oh, I kind of fall backwards, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I
It
think any progression is good progression, right? It's not
Oh yeah,
always going to be just like straight up progression. So
that's true.
it's
That is
all
very
little steps.
baby steps.
Yeah.
It's hard, especially with with coming from, I think a lot of Filipino families, they kind of could put yourself in each other's shoes, because like it
Yeah.
feels like we all know what like a Filipino will be going through, because it feels like we almost kind of got raised almost the same way. And there's those little small little quirks, be like, oh yeah, my parents did that too. Like, oh yeah, I went through that too.
Yeah.
It's like no matter whether you're like actually from the Philippines, like you were born and raised for a little bit and then came to the US, or like you're straight up like born and raised in the US, like it feels like there's always those like ties and those lines where like, oh yeah, that's it.
It's like there's like five, not five, but there's just basic things in every Filipino household that everyone goes through. And no matter
Really.
what, like, yeah, like you said, if you're in Philippines or if you're here, if you're Filipino,
You're Filipino, you're
you're gonna
gonna be
go through
raised
it.
almost the same way. Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is. It's like I remember like when I was in middle school, I had a lot of like I guess you like Asian friends, and like I felt more um I don't know how you say, like closer to them because we kind of were raised the same way. And then when I went to high school, I was with a whole different like ethnic kind of groups. And like there were Asians there also obviously, but like majority weren't, and majority of my friends were kind of weren't. So it's just like what I felt and what I went through was felt like it was completely different at the same time. So it's like it's really interesting to see how different like races, different groupings, cultures are like raised and like brought up, and what like their their beliefs, or like all those things. And it's also interesting to see like the similarities to it in a way. But yeah.
I was wondering if you think, you know how for us it's like we see another Filipino person, or like, hey, they're Filipino, and then you like
Hmm.
kind of just become friends with them because they're Filipino. Like it's just like natural. You
Yeah.
see them, they're like, hey, they're Filipino too, and you
Yeah.
become friends with them.
I
So
think it's funny,
I
but
wonder if that happens with other ethnicities.
that's a good question. I've always wondered that. In like the community college that's close by here, how there's like a lot of like internationals. I always wondered, like, do they like instantly migrate towards the other internationals because like that's what they're used to, that's what they're comfortable with, or do you think they're more willing to like go towards, a different culture just to see like the difference?
Well, I actually, one of my friends was an international student,
Hmm.
and it was kind of a mix of both. Like, she had her friends that came here with her too, so they were closer because I mean, they came from the same place,
Hmm.
but then she made like her own friends here, so I don't know, maybe for them it's different because when they come here, if they're with the same people, the same culture, then they can still have their culture around them. But then they
Hmm.
also want to experience what it's like here, so then they branch out and have other friends too. So
Yeah,
I
that
think a
makes
mix of
sense.
both.
Yeah, I think it also depends on the timeline too. I think like maybe instantly they'll go towards what they're familiar with, but once they start getting used to it, I think that's when some start to like branch out and like
Yeah.
start, trying to find not like new friends, but more friends that are like, different, just to, get that experience as well, and build like their own kind of culture, their own kind of um like community. Yeah. Something like that. Yeah.
Well,
Um,
I was also wondering, you know how when we see someone on TV that's like
mhm.
on a show or something and then they're Filipino and we end up just naturally liking them or rooting for them just because they're
Yeah.
Filipino?
I think that's so funny. Every time, like, it's because, I don't know, to me, it's because, like, it's it's like a shock because you don't usually see it. So when you do see it, you're just like, "Oh, Filipino. Okay, yeah."
Hmm.
You get a little bit more excited, a little bit happy. I think that's happened a lot before, like whenever we see them like on American Idol,
Yeah.
you see like a Filipino. I think that's what like once you ask that question, the first thing I thought was American Idol because like I know there was like a couple of singers that were on there that got eliminated, I think. Some of them went pretty far. But like I remember like always like, oh, they're so good, they're gonna win, or like like really like hyping them up, but then like get really sad when they like get eliminated or something. So it's like I always see that, or like when they do like the dance competitions,
Yeah.
or there's like all those like competition stuff. I always like get really excited to see them.
I think
Yeah.
it's like a sense of pride. Or like,
Mhm.
hey, they're
Yeah.
Filipino, like we're Filipino representing.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
But
I just like yeah. I
oh.
think. Oh no, like it's interesting. It's always like really like we have like that pride and that like,
Mm,
that self of community, even if like you don't know them, you kind
yeah.
of do know them kind of thing. I don't know. I always found that interesting. I remember I remember like someone mentioned to or yeah, someone mentioned to me um how I have like a lot of Filipino friends and I'm like, yeah, I guess it's just because like I kind of just migrate towards them. It's just like it's
Mm.
weird to think about it, but at the same time like I kind of thought I'm like, wow, I really do have a lot of Filipino friends. I don't really like realize how many of
Happens
them I have.
naturally.
Yeah, it just happened. I was like, oh yeah, huh. I'm like, I guess I really do. I thought I had like more like different type of race, like different races in my friend groups, but I'm like, oh, actually, wait, no, not really. They're either Filipino or like some other type of Asians, probably. So I just thought that was really funny. But yeah. But yeah, just like thinking of that, I think it's just like really interesting. Do you think, what do you think of like the whole, like, uh, like the Asian standards? You know how like there's Filipino standards? Like, where's your take in that? You know how like Filipinos are like, you have to either be a nurse, a doctor, all these things like in the medical field, and if you're not, you're just like, oh, they don't like look at you the same way. Have you ever like noticed that? Like, what's your take on those?
Well, actually, my grandma is like that with me and my cousins because one of my cousins is a nurse and my other cousin is a doctor of physical therapy. So, here I am. I always felt like there was a lot of pressure on me. I mean, not even just because of their careers now, but when we were growing up, I always felt like my grandma treated us differently. And I don't know why. I don't know why that was. Like, if she had favorites or something. But even now, I think she does put a lot of pressure and more on me now because I'm not quite where my cousins are at, career wise. So I used to kind of lie to her to just tell her something because I knew it would make her like just satisfied to hear an answer, like rather than telling her, oh, I'm still figuring it out and stuff, like I don't think she's gonna understand.
Mm.
So
I think,
it's kind of hard.
yeah, no. I think that's where we're different. I think my grandparents, honestly, I don't really like, I don't think they like, well, no, they do have favorites, I think. But I don't think like they're not really like the whole like pushing us to be like nurses. I think they're more like pushing us to just at least succeed. But
Yeah.
then like they do kind of see the whole like, sometimes it does feel like it, but then I think it's just like one of those moments you're just like, am I overthinking it? moment, like, oh, are they playing favorites with me? Are they like just being nice? Or like, am I like the black sheep of the family? Because I know when I was younger, I felt like that so much. I don't know if this happened to you, like you compare yourself with your other family members a lot. And I know like as I was growing up, I felt like I was comparing myself with like a whole bunch of my like all my cousins, and like seeing where they are and like where I was going or what I wanted to do. And I think for me that influenced a lot of my decisions and where I wanted to go, because I always felt like I was the black sheep of the family, because like I wasn't going into the medical field, or I wasn't the smart one. I wasn't the one who always brought in the A's. And it's like compared to them, like I wasn't the smartest or I wasn't the most talkative, and all those stuff. So it felt really different, at least for me, when I was growing up.
I think part of it for me was that my parents are different than my cousin's parents.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my cousin's parents would always, they were just so proud of them, all of their achievements and everything. So, anytime we were at a family party, they would, make sure that they mentioned it and how proud they were. Or even now, like, they post about it and stuff. And my parents aren't like that. Like, they'll tell me, like, oh, good job and stuff, but they won't like go and post about it, or they won't tell everyone at the family party, even if I did the exact same thing. So it always felt like, even though I was still achieving the same things and I'm still successful, like, it didn't feel the same. I mean, not
Yeah.
that I like have to gloat about it or whatever, but
Hmm.
it's just, it's different when you have a lot of people celebrating.
Others,
Yeah,
kind of
and
thing.
then when it comes to you, it's like they don't
Oh,
even know. And I'm not even
yeah.
the type of person to be like, "Hey, look what I did." You
Yeah,
know,
no,
like
no, I understand. I'm like in the same boat. It's just like, yeah, like, I don't know, maybe it's because we're not doing, I don't know, you're closer to the medical field compared to me, but it's just like, I don't know. Yeah, no, I totally understand. It's like they like I really do hate to compare sometimes, but it's like it is kind of what it is. But
yeah.
it's just like I remember like during like certain graduations or achievements or the awards, it's like it feels like my other family members would be like boasting about it. And like when I was younger, like if I got the same award, like I never really got that type of like boast kind of thing. And it was just like it didn't like, I think now it's like whatever, but like I think when I was younger, it did bring my own self-esteem down, it feels like.
Mm.
And like I think that affected me more as I was starting to grow up, and like seeing what I can do and like where I was going. And I think like in the back of my head when I was younger, I think I kept thinking to myself, am I really that good enough? Like, should I just give up? No one's gonna pay attention to me anyway. Like, like those type of like
Oh, I
sad,
see.
depressive kind of things when I was little. I think it was until like when I got a little, maybe like older to my 20s ish, where I started thinking like, you know what, who cares? Like I shouldn't even think about that anymore, you know? But I think, yeah, just really just it's one of those like, oh, moments in like, in my life where it's just like I have to compare myself to everyone, and I hated that.
Hmm.
I think even not just with like my family members, but with like my family's like family friends, if like they're the same age as me, they'll be like, so and so got this on there, like I don't know, their grades, like why aren't you getting this, like like stuff like that. And I think that's what like kept like hitting me so much, or just like, well, I'm not good enough, well, I guess what's the
Well,
point.
I think part of it is like that's how Filipinos are. Like, did you
It's,
ever realize that they just bring random stuff up for no reason?
oh my
Like,
God, yeah.
my grandma will be like, "Oh yeah, my friend's daughter, she's a nurse." Blah 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 blah. It's like
Oh my
that
God.
had nothing to do with the story, but she just had to bring up the fact that she's a nurse. I'm like,
Have you ever
good for
noticed
her.
that? Like, not even just like, yeah, no. If it's not even like, for my grandparents, they're in the Philippines, so they're not like that much into like that. But it's like my aunts or my uncles or even like my parents, they'll do that. Or even like my cousins or something. They'll be like, they'll just be talking about, I don't know, what we did that day. And then randomly someone will just be like, oh, so and so, she's a nurse at so and so. They're doing blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, what does this have to do with what I did today? It's like, I don't
Yeah.
understand where this conversation all of a sudden went to. It's just like, okay, I guess. But yeah, it's
It's
just like
like
it kind of, yeah.
the most random things.
Yeah. I just think it's so funny. It's just be like, okay, cool. Like, I don't even know this person.
I know.
Like,
I know.
do I? That's the funny part sometimes. Like, you don't even know the person, and like, it's not even part of like what you're trying to have a conversation with. It's just a random person at a random time in the conversation, and you're just like, okay, cool. Next subject, I guess.
It's like, because
Be
there's
like, I
no
guess,
relevance.
yeah. Or like, and then you have like that awkward silence. You're like, I don't know what to say next. I'm like, okay, I'll just be sitting at the dinner table playing with my food now. It's just so awkward.
It is.
But
It really is. Like my grandma would be like, "Oh yeah, my friend's son, he is a doctor and he's married and he went camping last week." It's like, "Okay."
yeah,
What did him being a doctor have to do with anything?
right? It's just, I don't know. I don't know why it's so common for Filipinos to compare each
Mhm.
other to eat. Like that's like I love being Filipino. I love our heritage, I love our history and everything like that. But there are some things that are just like I really wish to change. And that's the part where it's like you compare each other and you kind of like put each other against one another. Like I remember like in high school I had like a couple of friends or not even well I guess now they are but like we had family friends that went to the same high school as me and like their parents were close to my parents and I would always remember my like parents would always compare their achievements to the stuff that I haven't like done, like all those like those they'll keep comparing us
Mhm.
and so and so did this, like why aren't you doing this, like why are their grades like like stuff like that. And then I think because I was a kid I just ended up kind of hating them in a way. Like I didn't like them because of the fact that my parents kept comparing me to them.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until like I got older where when I started to like stop like think listening to that I actually started liking them and like like I actually started being friends with them and started talking to them. I mean like now we don't talk to each other anymore because it's been years, but like now it's like I see them in a different light, be like, "Oh, I actually could have been friends with you in high school. Like I actually could have probably talked to you if it wasn't for all like those comparisons?"
Yeah, it's because they kept comparing you to them that you
Mhm.
were like kind of despising them in a way.
Mhm.
And it
Cuz
wasn't
like,
even their
yeah,
fault.
exactly. And
Yeah.
I don't know if like it was just like, yeah, you kind of put them in a judgment already, even though you don't know them, it's because of like what you were told. And I just think that was always so interesting and I always think like that's the one thing if I were to change something about like I guess like Filipino culture or Filipinos, it would be the fact that it's like I really wish we would stop comparing each other and start putting each other like against each other, because we are very family
How
and friend oriented,
mhm.
right? But at the same time it's just like that you still get put, kind of like put up against each other in a way, I guess. Yeah.
It's because Filipinos are so judgmental and so chismosa.
Oh my God.
It's like
They really are.
everything that you do is gonna get around in the whole family because
Yeah.
one person's gonna tell everybody.
And it's not even, it's just, I try so hard not to do that. It's like, I try to, try to change my, like, kind of DNA and be like, nope, I can't be like a, chismosa. I can't be spreading the tea. I have to keep quiet or I shouldn't be asking these things. But at the same time, just like, damn, I really want to know. What did they do?
Well,
It's just like,
do you ever
it's
think
hard.
about how like there are things that you don't want to be like? when you're older and like as a Filipino, but you're kind of scared that it's just inevitable.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is.
Like, you know
It's, yeah.
how I feel like, I don't know if it's true or if it's just like something that I noticed, that
Mhm.
a lot of Filipino men, when they get older, they just like become so grumpy and cranky, right? Like, is that just a
I
Filipino thing?
No, I don't know, man, but I think I see that too. I think that's the reason why, like, I don't think I could marry or date a Filipino. I think that's why I've like told myself no, they're not attractive to me, is because of that. Like, it's really funny because like obviously I've already like came out and like I love K-pop. So like my family knows I love K-pop and they're like, they'll tease me like, "Oh, he's Korean, he's cute, blah blah blah, like you probably are gonna like like him." I'm just like, "Okay, yeah." And then I remember like my mom would be like, "Oh, why don't you like," or I think my mom and my cousins were like, "Oh, why don't you date a Filipino or like Filipinos?" I'm just like, have you not noticed the Filipino men in our family? Like, really? You really think I would want to date one of them? Like, I don't think so. Like, I'll find them attractive, maybe, yeah. But at the end of the day, I don't think I would. I don't know. I think I'll laugh at myself if I do end up with a Filipino. But honestly, I don't think I can. I just.
I think it's funny because one of my best friends from high school,
Mm,
she's Korean, and so we were like very close. Like we would go to each other's house and stuff all the time. So
mm,
she learned about Filipino culture. I learned about Korean culture,
mm,
and now she's actually engaged to a Filipino guy.
mm.
And I was like, that would be so funny if I end up with a Korean guy.
Just kidding. Just kidding. My other friends, please don't come at me if you heard me. Ouch. Shoot. I just hit my knee. Um, but no, yeah, I don't know. I don't think I can. It'll be funny though.
Sorry,
I just,
Filipino men. You have no chance with
we're
Christina.
sorry. I- Show me you're not gonna turn up like my uncles or dads and they're weak, you got chance. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
How are they gonna prove that?
I don't know, man. I think that's why I just have like I think that's why my standards are so high. Is because I don't want to like I don't know. Actually, this reminds me of something. Have you ever heard the whole like the person you're dating is supposed to be a like the person you date is like it's like a mirrored version of your dad. Have you ever heard like it's something like that?
Yeah, I forgot what this saying is, but
Yeah, there's a saying to it. But
something
yeah,
about like your significant other like ends up kind of being like your dad,
like almost like
or
the personalities are like the same.
yeah.
Like you'll see the same type of personalities, not the fact. Yeah,
I've
I don't
seen
know if
people
it'll
say that
tie.
for boys
Yeah.
too, like, oh, when you realize that your girlfriend's like your mom or like something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think. Do you think if you like looked at your past relationships, do you think that could be accurate in a way? Even if it's like not all of it, but you could see like some little quirks in there.
Um, Actually, not really.
Really?
Like, but I don't know if that's because like, I think my dad is like really a great man in like a lot of different ways. So I think it's hard to try and compare my exes to him
Yeah.
because, I mean,
Your
obviously it
dad's pretty
didn't
cool.
work out with my exes, so it's like.
Yeah. Your dad is pretty cool, actually. He's nice. He's pretty cool. He's not like one of those Filipino dads that are scary. Like I've met a lot of Filipino dads that are just like really scary and they're just like,
Yeah.
I don't want to say anything. But your
No,
dad's pretty cool though. Like
I
he's pretty
like
chill.
consider my dad one of like my best friends because I can talk to him about anything, and yeah, it's like there's never any pressure. He's really not like your typical Filipino
Filipino
dad.
dad.
Yeah. So, no, I don't think any of my exes really even like him at all.
I'm trying to think. I mean, there are like some parts from my exes that reminded me of like some parts of my dad.
Like what?
Do I really want to say it?
Well, like I know your dad's really sweet, or are they really sweet?
No. I mean, he could be sweet in some senses, but he's like, um, well,
Just tell me, we can bleep this part out.
yeah, I'm the one who's gonna bleep it out. I have no idea how to do that. Well, if there's a cut, you know what happens.
I
Oh
know.
no. I mean, they're like, I think more of the fact that it was just like my dad, he like, yeah, he could be really chill, but he's more of like stay at home. He doesn't want to go out kind of thing. And I
Mm.
think like that was very similar to like an ex of mine that he just liked staying home, and just like not doing anything. And I think I kind of got like that whole like, okay, yeah, sure, sure, why not? Yeah, I guess that's one thing. There's some other stuff, I guess, like attitude wise, but yeah, that's fine.
You don't have to say
Actually,
it.
yeah. But it's really funny. I remember this one time my dad, I don't know where this conversation was going. Like, I remember it was like me and my mom and my sister were like in the car, and I remember my dad was just like, I don't know why he said it. I don't remember where the conversation was going. He was just like, "Oh yeah, don't you want to date a guy like me?" And I'm just like, I bursted out laughing. Like straight up laughing. And my sister, I could tell like she was holding in her lap too. I was just like, why would I want that? Like, I don't want a guy who has the same attitude as you. No. Like,
So
no.
you don't think that the saying will be true for you then?
I really hope not. I really hope not.
You're like, I'm gonna
I
make
will
sure
try.
it's not.
I'm gonna make sure. Maybe that's also why I don't want to date a Filipino because I think it feels like, to me at least, when I think about dating a Filipino, it's too
Sorry.
close to. It's okay.
I pulled my
Um,
plug.
it's fine. I think if I start dating a Filipino, it's too close to like personality wise to my dad, and I don't think I want that. I think that's why I try
Interesting.
to like navigate towards
That's why you
other
don't
races.
want to date
Yeah.
Filipino.
I'm so sorry, Filipinos. I love you guys. I do love our culture. I do love the Philippines, you know, but yeah, I don't think I can date a Filipino. At least
I
this moment in my life right now, if you tell me no, I won't. I'll give you a shot,
maybe
but
you'll meet someone who's gonna change your mind.
maybe. If
It
you're a
just
Filipino out
depends.
there, give me a reason to date you because right now I can't think of anything. That and I have way too high standards. Let's be real.
I feel that.
I think K-pop has ruined my standards. Let's be real.
Okay, but
Let's
I
be real.
can't date someone who's prettier than me.
Oh, I want to say something, but then you know what? Maybe not.
I think I know what you want to say or something like it.
I'll say it when the cameras are off.
Oh my god.
Anyway, um, dang, I had like this train of thought again and it left my mind. Um, what was I gonna
Now
say?
I'm just thinking about pretty Korean boys now.
Should we change our whole dynamics of where this conversation was going? We're supposed to stick towards like family.
I
No, you know what?
know.
Let's just take that out and just talk about the pretty Korean boys.
Throw that away.
Let's just throw that whole thing away. Let's talk about. Actually, wait. Like, do you ever feel like because well, actually, I don't know because your family likes Korean too. Like your mom is into Korean music, so
My
I can't
mom
even really.
loves watching K dramas, so
I know. I really do wish that part. Like I could. I wish I could have that connection, but no,
I think my mom
no,
has watched more K dramas than I have.
really. Your
Yeah.
mom's cool too. Your parents are cool, honestly. Like your parents are really cool. I like them. They're nice. kind of miss them. Can you tell them I said hi later?
Yeah, I
Shout out
will.
to Maribel's parents because they might be watching right now. Love you guys.
I don't know if they'll see this. I'll let them know.
Oh, and I don't want to forget your brother. Your brother's out there. He's cool.
Oh my gosh, you
Sounds like
just
he's
threw
grown
it
up.
in there.
He's grown up so much. I'm just saying. But yeah. Where were we going with
Oh,
this
okay,
conversation?
no, I have a question for you.
Uh-huh.
Did you ever feel like kind of really nervous to introduce your parents to your significant other because you were just scared of what they were going to think because like how Filipinos are so judgmental? Like, were you scared of him meeting them?
Not even. Oh, yeah. Especially because like one of my exes he wasn't Filipino, so that and he was like a totally different like ballpark, like personality wise and everything. Oh yeah, I was terrified. I think like even in high school, like I never introduced like anyone I was dating in high school because I was always so scared of like
Yeah.
how my parents will react or what they'll say. And I think it's even not just boyfriends. I was scared to introduce my parents to my friends a lot when I was younger because
Mm,
like I was scared they'll like judge them. I was
yeah.
scared they were gonna say something. Um, yeah, no, I was like terrified. Like there's moments now where I still do, but it's just like in the back of my head, like those thoughts would like just pop in. Those like I can't think of the word. The hiccup.
I don't know what you're thinking.
Um, I hate it when this happens. But yeah, like just those like negative thoughts just come to my head, be like, oh, they're gonna totally judge them.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I shouldn't introduce Maribel to my parents or stuff like that, you know?
Your parents love me.
Uh-huh. Just kidding. No, your parents do love
Your dad made me
I,
spaghetti.
yeah, you know yeah, sure, let's go with that.
He did.
Um,
Don't you remember? Camille brought it to me.
yeah, he totally made that for you.
Yeah, he did.
Just let you believe in that. That's fine. Just kidding.
Well,
But
yeah, I was like, I didn't even want to introduce when my ex and I were like first dating. I didn't even want to introduce him to my parents at first because I was like, I need to know how serious this is gonna be,
mhm.
and if it's even, sounds mean, but like if it's even worth it
Mm,
to introduce him. But my parents wanted to meet him because it was like my first real serious relationship. And I get that, like, they wanted to meet him and everything. But for me, it was like too soon. I didn't want them to meet him yet.
did they not meet him as like just a friend
When we were just
beforehand?
friends,
Uh-huh. Did they not meet him for that?
no, I don't think so. Even my other ex, like, he wanted to meet my parents. And do you remember when I had my big birthday party?
You're a big 18?
No, no,
Is that
no.
the one? Oh no,
The,
21st. 21st one.
no, it was my 20th.
20th. What? That was 21. Okay, yeah.
No, because I had a 20s themed party for my 20th.
Oh, that's right. The
Oh my
like
god, Christina.
I knew about the party, I just wasn't sure on the age. I was like, oh, that's right.
It's
Anyway.
okay. But yeah, he wanted me to invite him to my party, and I wasn't even like, I don't even know if you could say we were like dating. I guess we were. But anyways, he wanted me to invite him, and I was like, and you're gonna meet like my whole family there? No. I was like, no. No way.
Have you ever felt that way, like talking about like, you introducing to like someone you're dating, but like have you ever felt that way when it's just not just like your friends, but it's a guy who's just a friend? Have you ever had like that kind of feeling with them? Like you don't want them to meet your family?
Um, yes, but only because I knew how my family would react. Like
What's
growing
an
up,
example?
every time they'd be like, "Oh, you have a boyfriend?" or like so of course they're going to ask me if he's my boyfriend just because
He's a guy
yeah.
and he's your friend. It's just, yeah, no,
Yeah.
same. I always get like this back in my mind, be like, do I really want to invite you? Because for one, you're single, you're a guy,
Mhm.
and you're Filipino. Those are like the three things. It feels like, oh, automatically, are you dating my daughter? Are you dating,
Yeah.
blah blah blah. And I'm just like, we're just friends, like there's a chance that
And
there could be
that
more.
too, like
But
they have to ask a million questions.
yeah, and I'm just like, no, we're just friends. I mean, that's it, nothing else. Yeah, that's I think those are like the moments where just like if I had like a guy friend back in like high school or like or like in college or whatever, and like we're just like friends, and like they always have to ask like not even just your parents, it's like your whole family has to ask all the same questions
I know.
over and over and over again. I'm just like, why? Why did I invite you?
One time
Love you, but no.
I was at my grandparents' house and I was meeting up with one of my guy friends
Mm.
and he ended up like picking me up from their house and I didn't know he was like gonna come down to the door and everything.
Oh,
And he did, and he like introduced himself, and I was like, oh my god. I was like, why you didn't have to come down? He's like, no, of course I'm gonna come down and like introduce myself to them. Like I don't want to be rude, and I
mm-hmm.
get that, and that's really sweet. But then of course my grandma's like, is he your boyfriend? And she was like, I remember she was like smiling the entire time because she thought that we were dating. And she was like, afterwards when I came home, and she's like, oh, he's cute.
Oh, it's so relatable. It's so funny. It's so funny how they like, yeah. I think a lot of Filipinos can relate to that. Filipino females, I think that's just funny. Even the males, I have a feeling,
Oh, probably.
every time. Oh yeah, every time. And then still all like the aunties like come in a circle. It's like, oh, is that the girlfriend? Is that the boyfriend? And I'm just like, no, it's just the friend.
Yeah.
Besides friend,
Friend. That's a
who
boy.
likes to say,
That's
like just
it.
friends. Yeah, that's nothing going there.
I
And then,
used
or if
to
you,
like. Oh, sorry.
no,
What you
no, no, go ahead.
Oh no, I used to like not even tell my parents about like my guy friends before because I didn't want them thinking anything like
Oh yeah, no, I think you're not the only one in that boat. I think I did the same thing just because I didn't want to go with the whole same answers over and over again. I think like my parents and family members probably think I didn't have any guy friends. I just
when
never
you're good.
introduced them.
Yeah.
I just never introduced them. Like during my parties, they'll be like, "There's so many girls." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't. Yeah." I either don't invite them or I'm like really hoping, like they don't come. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just really
very
interesting.
very relatable.
Mhm. I think it's funny, honestly. But yeah. Um, I was gonna ask a question, then I forgot again. I'm like,
Again.
it's been a long week. My brain is, I think, like, after finals, I'm on like my school break. It's just like I think my brain just shut off and be like, okay, good night. I'll be back in a
Yeah.
month when school
It
starts
needs
again.
a break, yeah.
Yeah. Um, it was about school actually too.
About school?
I think so. Have you ever had like those family members that would always ask you the same questions over and over again about like school or work? And it's just like, have you ever thought it's like, do they ever listen to what I actually say? Or are they just like really interested? Or like, like those like,
Oh, like they're just making small talk.
yeah, just make it small. Like,
Well,
those overthinking thoughts that come to your mind when like it comes to like your family members asking you like these questions. There you go. That's the way I wanted the question
it's
to be
like
asked.
it's nice that they want to talk with you and ask you, but
Mhm.
at the same time, every single auntie and uncle are just asking you the same exact thing. And it's always just like
Yeah.
small talk. But even one of my uncles, he would always, so at Thanksgiving, me and my
Mhm.
cousins, since we're around the same age, we would always like have our own table.
Mhm.
And every year or every Christmas too, he would come over to our table and he'd ask us, because we were all girls,
Mhm.
except I have like two older boy cousins, but they
Mhm.
weren't around as much. So it was all of us girls, and he'd be like, "So which one of you has a girl or has a boyfriend now?" And then we're like, it's
No one.
so awkward. Like we wouldn't even want to tell him if we did, anyways, because it's like I don't know. It's
You're
just
my uncle.
weird. And if it's
Yeah.
like not a serious relationship too, it's like
Mhm.
if it's
You don't want to
serious,
bring.
they're gonna be there.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to
Yeah.
ask us every time too. And we always knew every year he would ask
Come
us.
in. You guys should have like played a game around it and be like, "Oh yeah, I have a boyfriend. He's not here right
I feel like we probably did.
now."
Like just to mess with him because because we knew it was coming.
Yeah.
I
Feels
don't
like that's
know
just something
though.
I would do.
I don't know if we did though because of like all the other million questions that would
Mm,
come with it and then spreading it to the rest of the family even though it was just a
that's true.
joke.
Yeah. Sometimes it's so hard, like to have like, yeah, I love my family, but sometimes like the connection that it's there. I don't know, I think it's just because I could be so negative sometimes and I could have like that anxiety of like self-doubt and overthinking where I'm just like, are they really interested in what I want to do? Or are they just trying to be nice? Or like, do they will they understand what what I'm trying to say? Especially when it comes to the fact, um, because I'm not gonna be a nurse. Like I don't like I'm not in the healthcare at all. And like every time, like it always feels like when they do ask me like, "Oh, why aren't you be a nurse? Why not be in the healthcare? It's such good money, blah blah blah." And I always feel like every time I have to tell them why I don't want to do it, like it's like they don't understand that it's like my decision for
Hmm.
one, and the fact that like I don't like healthcare, like I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be a nurse.
I
Do you
think
ever feel
it's
like the
just
pressure? No, what were you
from.
saying?
Oh no, I was just gonna say I think it's just hard for them to understand because Filipinos are all not always but like often in healthcare. So
Mm-hmm.
they're like they don't really understand why since Filipinos are so like caring and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think they need to be judgmental. They just don't understand.
Do you think it's always do you think it's harder to try to get like more like the older, I guess older generations? It feels like they're
Mm.
very straightforward and they can be very like persistent about it, you
Yeah.
know? So it's just like, do you think do you think they could ever change when it comes to that? Do you think it's something that they may
Mm,
eventually learn to do if you like kind of teach them in a way?
I think for older generations it's harder to
You think
because
so?
they're kind of set in their ways.
That is true.
I think a lot of times when you think of the older generations, you kind of notice that however they grew up, they're kind of like stuck in that way or that mindset,
Yeah.
and even for me, like I'm still in the healthcare field and everything, but I'm not a nurse. And every time my grandma's like, "You really don't want to be a nurse?" I'm like, "No." And she
Um,
would
yeah.
ask me to like explain why, and I'm like, I can't do
Um,
it.
like yeah, like even if I explain to you, you won't understand. There's a chance you're gonna ask me again anyway. So it's just like I don't feel like I put enough effort to explain what I do or what I want to do, just because it feels like I'm gonna explain it again, or they
Hmm.
won't understand it anyway.
They'll just
It's
try to
just
like
like
push it on you what they're
yeah.
feeling or thinking too, because
Mm-hmm.
when I graduated with my bachelor's, I like didn't think I was gonna go back to school, and then I told my grandma that like, oh, I might go back, or I'm planning on going back for my master's, and then she's like, oh well, if you want to go back to school, maybe you can go for nursing. I was like, what?
Mm,
I already
no.
told you before. I don't want to be a nurse.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think it's funny, like like how much they can, I don't know how to say it, like not influence, but just have so much say. And like sometimes like I get scared, like, oh, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't just say anything at all and just finish it and just, do what I have to do. But it's like I wish they didn't push so much
Hmm.
to do like, oh, be a nurse, be in healthcare instead. Like, dude, I'm afraid of needles. I don't like
I know,
blood.
right? I cannot with the
Like,
blood. I can't.
it's just not me. Like, I was not good at science at all. It's like, no. I can barely memorize like bones or like all those brain stuff and like, body medicines. I'm like, dude, I can barely speak English. How in the heck am I gonna say this medication to this patient? Like, I can't do that. Like, I don't know. That's not me. Like, I already knew, like, that's not me.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just like, even if you explain that to your family members, it feels like I feel like it's not only just a Filipino thing too. Like, I think there could be a lot of race or a lot of ethnicities that do the same thing. Like, you try to explain to them what you want to do and like what your passion and what your what you see your job in the future kind of is, and like they have this set mind that they're like, no, that's not what you're gonna do. You know what I mean?
And
Like,
I think that's why a lot of times people, especially, I think it happens a lot with our generation where we won't tell our parents or our families certain things, or we'll like kind of say it in a different way because we
mm,
already know that they might feel some type of way about it, so we want to avoid that and end up like walking around it to so
yeah.
that we don't say it.
I think that goes from what we started the conversation with, like how much like the influence they have on us. I think this kind of
Yeah.
goes back to it because I think for me, like yeah, like I said in the beginning, I was like I have a lot of influence on it, and I think that affected me in the beginning when I was younger, when I first started going out, like applying for schools, going to college, because like my parents were so set on me being a nurse that
Hmm.
like every time I would say, "Oh, I wanna be," I remember that like I was like applying for colleges, and for a little bit of that time, I told my parents, "Oh, maybe I want to be a vet because like I love animals and I want to take care of them, I think that's pretty cool." And in the back of my head, I'm just like, "Oh, I mean, it's kind of like, I'm still gonna be in the healthcare, but with animals, maybe they'll be okay with that." And then I can't remember if it was my mom or my dad, but they were just like, "No, it's not a good job. You're gonna have to kill the animals and you're not gonna be able to do it." And I remember
Mm.
I remember I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess you're right." Like that moment you're just like, "Okay, I guess I'll agree with it. You're right."
Yeah.
And I think that happened a lot whenever I did choose what I wanted to do. And it wasn't until I was like, "Okay, fine, I'll take some science classes and do nursing school." And they're like, "Yeah, yeah, go for it. I think you can do it, blah blah blah." I was like, "Do you guys really not know me? Like, I suck at science. You really think I'm gonna pass these science classes? Like, no." I think in the end, like, I think that's why it took me so long too, is because like I couldn't decide because no matter what, I feels like my family members were just gonna be like, no, you're not gonna be able to, and then I'm gonna tell myself, no, I won't be able to.
Yeah. Like
So
you
I just
get
not do it.
discouraged
Yeah, yeah,
because
there you
of
go.
what they
There's the
say.
word. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think not until now, like not until recently, when I went back to school, where I finally decided, no. I'm doing this for me and I know I can do it. I'm not gonna let what they say affect what I want to do. And I think that's helped me, at least now, as I'm finishing, that I could actually finish with the degree that I want because I hate that I couldn't tell them anything because I felt like every time I did, it felt like I felt discouraged already. So I kind of lessened it. But like, I wish I could have told them more. But at the same time, it's just like, I'm kind of glad I didn't because I know that they're going to discourage me like they did before.
Yeah.
So it's just like I'll give them enough so they could like, have a peace of mind, but not enough that it could discourage me to stop and change, if that makes sense. You know.
I feel the same way because, well, my parents, thankfully, they've never put any kind of pressure on me for school and everything, which I actually find it kind of funny. Like, they've never really put pressure on me for school, but I always wanted to do well. I always wanted straight A's, and they, like, it wasn't even because of them. They
That's
never
really good
said, like, you need to get straight A's, you know?
though.
I always kind of just wanted to, but I wanted to do it for them.
I think that's the best way to do it though. At least they weren't pushing
Yeah.
it, so it kind of motivated you even more.
It was always like my
I don't know.
grandparents, I think, that were more like that. And especially when it came to college, you know, they always
Hmm.
asked me what I wanted to do and stuff. And yeah, my parents never put any kind of pressure on me to figure out what I wanted to do. But of course, my grandparents were like, oh,
I
you
think,
should be a nurse, you should
yeah,
go
yeah,
to
yeah.
school for this. And so I would always tell them, like, even if I didn't know, I wasn't gonna tell
Hmm.
them like, oh, I don't know what I'm gonna do because
Hmm.
obviously they're gonna be disappointed. So I would find a different way to say it.
Yeah, no, no. I think you're at least from like, oh my God, there's like a bug started to fly in front of me. Um, I think at least from what I see, like how I met your parents, and I think they're more like the new school way. I guess that's how the term. And I think like your grandparents are the old school way, because your grandparents are more like my parents. They're more old school, and then like yours is more like the new school Filipinos that are trying to adjust to kind of I
Yeah,
guess like the American lifestyle in a
true.
way. But like, yeah, I think they still have like the quirks of Filipinos, but I think they're still
Like
they're
more
they're the
modernized.
generation, yeah, they're trying to modernize, pull away from it, you know? But yeah, I think that's at least that's what I notice or that's what I see.
Hmm.
There's like the Filipinos that, still go with the traditional kind of push you towards what their plans are. They have a site, that's where they want to see you, that's where you're gonna go. And I think that's what I try so hard just trying to like navigate out of like um whenever like my parents like they're like, "Oh, I want you to do this, having this." And I'm just like, "But that's not what I want. I want to go here and do this and have this." You know?
I think
I think that's
maybe part of the reason that my parents are like that with me is because my grandparents were probably like that with them, right? Like they probably
Yeah.
really tried to push things on them. So my parents are probably
Like they don't want that
thinking,
for you
yeah, they don't
guys.
want it to be like that.
Mhm.
So I think that's probably influenced them. That's another way parents can influence people, right? Their children.
Yeah.
Kind of
I
shows you
mean
what you
like
don't want to be like,
Yeah,
or
I
you
mean,
don't
like
want
it
your kids.
shows. Yeah,
Yeah.
it shows though. Like you can navigate out of that. You
Hmm.
can pull away from that, like kind of that type of identity for yourself. That there is you can change and you cannot do all the same things that you're expected, I guess, to do or be in a way.
I think
Yeah,
just the older generations kind of
yeah,
stuck in that, in their
yeah.
ways.
Yeah, and it's hard to try to get the older generations out of that mindset. I feels like because they're just so like, no, I'm right, you're wrong, kind of setting,
Yeah.
and it's like it's so annoying. But at the same time, you're just like, okay, well, I love you guys anyways, and I'll just deal with it. Have you ever noticed that like with your like if any of your family members because they're family members and because like you love them, you're just like, I'll just deal with their personalities. I'll just deal with it's just like what I can't do anything about it, so I'm just gonna like let it be.
Did you ever realize that too? A lot of like older Filipino men are really stubborn.
Feels like if we start this conversation,
That's a whole nother
it feels like
thing.
that's a whole nother thing, a whole nother reason why not to date. I'm just kidding.
It's okay, Christina. You don't have to date a Filipino man. Oh my god, these
I
poor
think I've just
Filipino
been
men.
I think I've just been traumatized with older generations. I don't know, man.
I know.
Yeah, it's just I just think it's funny. Like, oh, okay, wait. So you know how like we love watching like TV show, movies and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
As a kid, like do you ever, obviously you like grew up in a Filipino household and like you see all like these Americanized like families on TV shows. Have you ever thought like, "Oh, I wish my family was like that," or anything like that?
Mm,
Or like, oh, or like, like you have your like friends who are like Americanized or American and they have like a different type of family upbringing than yours. Did you ever like compare your own family to like the TV shows or your friends' families and stuff?
kind of, because when it comes to different cultures, it's just interesting to see how the whole like family dynamics can change.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, for example, in Korean cultures, you are always, I mean, even in Filipino culture, but I think I see it a lot in Japanese and Korean cultures where you like really respect your elders and stuff, and we do too, but not like how they do, if that makes sense. Like, not
I
in
don't
the
think I've
same way.
I don't think I've been around that many Korean or Japanese families to know. I mean, I've seen on TV, but
Yeah, you know
like
from K dramas.
I mean, yeah, yeah, I think it really depends though, also. Because it feels like the f- the upbringing from here in the US for Filipinos is different compared to the upbringing
True.
to Filipinos in Philippines.
Yeah.
Because it feels like in the Philippines, the upbringing as for elders is it's pretty like, it's pretty straightforward. It's, I'm not saying strict, but like there's more respect towards elders in the Philippines compared to the elders here in the Filipinos. Like I remember in the Philippines, like, when I went there to visit, it's all your elders, you blessed your elders,
Mhm.
you I want to say it's Tagalog word, but I don't also at the same time because I feel like I'm gonna butcher it right now.
Duh.
But like, like you have more respect for them when you go visit the Philippines.
Yeah.
I think there like you always say tito, tita, or you call your kuyas, your ates all the time. And then here I've noticed for Filipinos, it's not like that. Like I don't bless all my uncles or aunts, all my
Yeah.
elders when I'm here in the US. I don't do that. I don't call all my titos and titas that. Um, like my cousins, there's like I have a couple cousins and nephews. They don't call me ate, So it's just
Oh,
like,
that's weird.
yeah. So it's just like sometimes like I have cousins who I don't want them to call me out there. I'm like, no, ill, no. And then I do have like my younger ones like, no, call me out there. What the heck? So it's just like there's like that dynamic. So I think like there's two different sides to like the upbringings from the US to the Philippines also. I
Yeah, I
think
mean,
because
here everyone is kind of like, when you come here, I think, is when everyone wants to be more Americanized, so they
hmm
change to be
yeah.
American.
Yeah, I think so because I remember like when I was younger, I think because like when I was younger, like we literally just got here, and when I was like in elementary school, I would always see like my like American friends. They seem more like open and out and like kind of get to do a little bit more stuff. And
Hmm.
like for me, like I felt like my parents kind of sheltered me a little bit more, and they're like, no, 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 you can't go out. No, 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 you can't go play outside, just play in the backyard, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think that was a lot different compared to um actually compared to my sister's upbringing. We were like raised, it feels like sometimes I would think about it, it's like we were raised by two different parents sometimes. Because when I was growing up, it felt like I had more of the Filipino, like straight from the Philippines upbringing. And then for my sister, because she was like 7 years younger than me, my parents were a little bit more like Americanized by then. So her upbringing was a lot different. It feels like she was a little bit. more free and out and was able to do a lot more things compared to me because my parents like I don't know if it's because I was the first child also, but I
I was
think
gonna say that.
yeah, like
Yeah.
there's that, but I think there's like that age gap too, but at the same time that sometimes it feels like I was more brought up Filipino style in a way,
Mm.
like kind of thing. If you kind of looked at our childhood, like you would literally think be like, did you guys have the same parents? I'd be like, I don't know, sometimes I don't think we did. Like it would be totally different, but I don't know, I think it's just interesting how like the upbringings of different races or different parts is completely different, you know? But yeah.
I think that also goes with age though, because I think no matter what, if you're like your parents' firstborn, they typically are more strict, or you know,
Mhm.
they do a lot of things different with you versus their second child or third child because
Mhm.
you're their first.
You're their like guinea pig test run, you know,
That
like
sounds so
I
bad.
don't
You're their guinea pig.
But it's true though, like if you really think about it, like you were their
Yeah.
first child, like they want to make sure, okay, my child shouldn't be going out kind of thing, like, you know, like I
They're
want to
still
shelter
like
them, make sure, you know.
navigating parenthood.
Yeah, exactly. Guinea pigs.
Okay.
Let's be real.
I guess we're just all firstborns are guinea pigs.
Like, leave it down in the comments if you agree, because I say
Oh, I
we were
thought
guinea
you were gonna
pigs.
say if you're a guinea pig. Leave it in the
You're
comments if
first.
you're a guinea pig too.
Yes, because I will say I was the first child. I will even say I was an accident. So it's just like obviously they were not ready for it. So I was legit the guinea pig. Okay.
Oh my god,
So
Christina.
but no, but it's true though. It's just like I remember as like I was young, like when I was younger, every time like my parents would say yes to my sister, I would get jealous because I was like, that's no fair. I wasn't able to do that. Like for
Yeah.
me, I wasn't allowed to go to sleepovers. I wasn't allowed to go to my friends' houses. I wasn't like almost every time I would ask something, they would say no because they're like, no, it's too dangerous. No, you should just stay home. And stuff like that. But then when it came to my sister around that same age, like when I would ask for sleepovers, I would ask to go out, they were like, yeah, sure, okay. Okay, go ahead, go you know? And then like I asked my parents like, "Oh, why didn't you let me do that?" She's like, "Oh, I never met your friends' parents and stuff. Like, I want to meet your friends' parents." I'm like, "Well, you could have asked. You never like kind of said that, you know?"
It's
And I'm
really
just
just
like,
because they're
"Yeah."
the younger sibling.
Yeah, so it's just like I think that when we were younger, I think I had that like not well, yeah, I guess a grudge in a way when I was younger because I was like
Yeah.
I felt always jealous that she got to do things that I was never able to do. I think that it caused a lot of rebellion also when I got older, but it feels like that's a whole nother conversation too. But
I know, I could say stuff about my brother too.
but then like yeah, as we got older, obviously I love her, and everything. But at the same time, it felt like when you're younger and you get so compared or like so it, it goes back to like how like a lot of Filipino families just pin you against each other sometimes. You're just
I
like
know. I
it
wonder
just
how
goes
that is
back
for the
to
younger siblings, though, if, getting compared
I
to
know.
us, the older ones.
I never got to ask my sister, so I don't
I,
really know.
I don't know if my brother would even say anything, honestly.
Why don't we bring our first guest onto the show? Go call your brother
I
right
just
now.
call him
Just
right
kidding.
now.
Be like, hey, I need you on this podcast real quick. That's actually really interesting, though. I wonder how the dynamics is because we're both older siblings. We're both
Yeah,
guinea pigs,
we
so
don't. Oh, yeah, we're both the guinea pigs.
so like we wouldn't know how a younger sibling they might have had a whole different perspective. And like as I'm older now, I could see how like that could be like worked up also,
Yeah,
knowing that like I know that like there was a lot of differences in our relationship and I have no idea how she would feel about it, So I don't know how a younger sibling would feel. It's just interesting.
I
Yeah.
can I can see it, and I know people have talked about it before with me, but since we've never experienced it, we don't exactly
Mhm.
know what it's like. So
Yeah.
I think that would be cool. Maybe we should do that for an episode. Get some younger siblings in here.
If you're a younger sibling, leave it down in the comments also. Tell us. Let us know, how is it being a younger sibling, getting either compared to your older siblings, or some give us some insights, educate
We
us a
would
little
like
bit.
to know your
Yeah.
experiences as a younger sibling.
Yeah, we would love to know. We want to see, if there's a lot of difference or similarities maybe. Maybe you're just another version of a guinea pig. I don't know what's another version of a guinea pig. Another test run. I don't know.
It's just interesting to see how different you can grow up just because of, like, you know, I don't know how to say it. Like, if you're an older sibling versus a younger sibling, you just grow
Mm-mm.
up so differently. It makes you almost like a different person.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
it plays a
it
big
really
part
does.
in how you grow up because of what number of sibling you are.
I guess so. But then, like, I think also, like, it's crazy to think, like, when I was younger and, like, me and my sister, she was super younger than me, like she's 7 years younger than me. So, like, our dynamics are totally different. And we were far from close. Well, no, I wouldn't say far from close, but we
No.
weren't that close. No, no, I wouldn't say far from close. That's wrong.
You made it
We
sound.
weren't we weren't as close as we were when we were like super super younger. Like, I think when I was like in high school and she was still in elementary, middle school, that for sure we weren't close. Like, I think I that's the time when I kept comparing myself to her upbringing on top
Mm-hmm.
of that other people's upbringings,
Mm-hmm.
and like I would compare how I was brought up or how I was treated. I think that's where that's where, like, I felt like that's where I kept thinking that I was the black sheep of the family, that I felt like I wasn't as important as it compared to everyone else in my family. So it's just like that definitely showed me how I grew up in a way, like how my 20s were in a way. Until now, I feel like I can finally see and finally turn all that off and try to focus on myself, be like, okay, yeah, no, I was wrong. No, that's not how it was, kind of thing.
It's like you kind of have to unlearn things.
Yeah,
Yeah, as
exactly.
you realize, like, once you get older.
I think that's always interesting. And I think also now I could see like my younger cousins and like my other younger family members, like I could see them going through that too. And I'm just
Mm.
like, oh, I really hope, or no, no, yeah, I really hope like they get to see what I learned later on too, and see how they grow up and how much of a difference that was. So I always find that really interesting.
It's really, I don't know, when you grow up, you just realize a lot of different things that you never really thought about when you were younger.
Mm-hmm. It's so weird to think about.
Yeah, because now it just all, like, all this stuff just comes to light, and you're like, wow,
Yeah.
never thought
Like,
about
there's
that.
moments, yeah, there are moments where like, oh dang, I wish I knew that sooner. But at the same time,
Yeah.
it's like there's a reason why I'm learning it now, and there's a reason why it's coming to light now,
Mm-hmm.
you know? I always found that really interesting. It's really interesting because before, when I first like graduated from high school, when I started college before, I always wanted to be actually a psychologist, a psychiatrist, and I wanted to get like my PhD. I wanted to actually really like take those steps. But of course, my family was pretty kind of, they kind of brought me down from that. Like, yeah, that's a whole nother. But anyway, but I remember when I was thinking about doing that, I remember like, oh, if I were to do a thesis, if I was able wanted to research on something, I wanted to research on how much of a difference kids, kind of their influence in their lives changes how they grow up to be. Like their
Yeah.
environments, how their family treats them and everything. Because, like, at that time, I had a lot of like cousins, nephews that had different upbringings. Like, I had like cousins that had just straight Filipino, old school Filipino, were raised the same way kind of I was. And then I had like nephews that were raised by a Filipino and um an American, I guess you could say. So they were half kids. So they were kind of raised a little bit differently. They're a little my cousin was a little bit more strict on them, so I wondered like how that their upbringings would be. And then I had like families that were like um how would you say like bigger families because of like, marriage and everything. So it's like
Mm.
intertwined. There's a term for that. Blended families. So like, I just always wondered how different like their upbringings are. And I don't know, now seeing them now, I'm just like, wow, there really is a big difference. Like I never really noticed it before, but there's a big difference on how you're raised and like
Yeah.
what happens.
That's why you could do like a whole study on this.
You really could. I always just like I kind of wish I stuck to being, like, psychiatrist. Um, just because like I still wouldn't mind like researching it. I really wouldn't mind seeing the
It's
dynamics of that.
interesting.
Yeah, it really is. Because actually it's crazy because I'm communications and one of my communications classes was family communication. So I kind of did do a little bit of that kind of study in that class. So it was really interesting, but at the same time, it's like, wow, it's so some of those stuff I learned was really relatable, but
It
still.
is. It kind of also teaches you about yourself. Like, oh,
Mhm.
that's why I'm like that.
Mhm.
Like, you know how they say older sibling or older sisters are basically like a mom to the younger siblings.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's just because we're the first and that
We have
happens
like
naturally or what.
maybe.
Like, I mean, with me and my brother, we're pretty far apart in age, so I think that kind of came naturally, but I do feel like that with my brother sometimes.
Oh, I felt like that with my sister so
Yeah.
much. Clearly. Oh, you were there. No. Um,
I was also one of them.
I was, yeah, you're also a part. No, but I think that's really true though too. I think a lot of older siblings can relate to feeling like that mother nurturing type.
Yeah.
Not nothing wrong with it. I think it's because like you're older, so it's just like you have your mom's instinct kind of how would you say like
Like you
brought
just
onto yourself.
yeah, like you just watch out for your younger siblings because
Mm-hmm.
you
You're
you are the
older.
older one.
Yeah, and you feel like you need to protect them. I
Mhm.
know that for me, for one, was a big ish, like big for me. Like I always wanted to protect my sister. I always wanted to make sure she's okay, make sure, all that stuff. And when things went bad, like I think the fact that I couldn't protect her hit me harder because I
Mhm.
was an older sister. So I think that's like a big thing for me too.
I
Yeah.
think I bet a lot of older siblings can relate to that
Mm-hmm.
because it's even though you might fight with your siblings or whatever, like at the end of the day, you'd do anything for them.
Yeah. I think that goes for any family member, really, too. I think no matter how much you fight, no matter how much you disagree, at the end of the day, I would take a bullet for any of my family members. I would do anything for my family members, no matter how much they would piss me off that day. If they called me that, like, just a couple hours later, I'll be like, okay, I'll be there. Like, I always want to make sure I protect them, always want to make sure that I'm there for them. Because, their family, their blood, or even not even like I have family members who aren't even blood related, and I would still go out of my way and do anything for them. I would
I
do whatever
think
it takes to protect them.
there's actually like this tweet that I saw before,
Hmm.
and it was I don't remember it exactly, but it was saying how like if you're siblings with someone, you have this really funny relationship because it's like, no, I won't let you wear my shirt, but yeah, I'll give you my kidney. Like, it's like
Yeah,
stuff like that. Like, no, I'm not going to give you half of my food, but yeah, of course I'm going to give you some of my blood or whatever. Like,
that sounds so relatable.
yeah. Because that's how it is. It's
It
siblings. That's
really
just.
is like no, it's so funny. It really is so relatable because yeah, if you know my history, you know
Yeah,
what I'm
I know you
talking
relate
about.
to that.
But yeah, no, it really is though. Like I would really do anything for my family, in honesty, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
If they, but it's really funny though also because there are some family members that's questionable at the same time too.
I think it was hard for me to realize that, how family oriented we are. So when there are
Mm,
people who are very distant from their family, it's kind of weird to
hard
me.
to. Yeah, it really
Yeah.
is. That's like I remember. Oh, what was it? I remember one of my friends. Obviously this person isn't Filipino. They're not of any Asian descent, and I remember them asking me, was like, "You would really go out of your way to do that for your family member?" And I'm just like, yeah, why not? Like, wouldn't you do that? And be like, I remember the person would be like, no, I think I wouldn't do that. And I'm just like, oh, that's so weird. Or like you see it in like movies or TV shows, you see how like distant like family
Mm-hmm.
members are. I'm just like, is that really true? Is that really what they do? And you just like look back into your own family and you're just like, whoa,
You
I
can't
can't
imagine it.
imagine. Yeah. It's like, I can't imagine not doing that to my parents or like imagine, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I
yeah.
remember this one thing. We were watching a movie and like if you heard my mom say it, you'd think that she's joking. But at the same time, I don't think she was joking. She was like, if she told me, she was like, if you ever do that to me, if you ever put me in a home or whatever, um, like I'll come and find you. Like, no, that's disgraceful. And no, you can't do that. Stuff like that. I'm just like, is she joking or is she like being serious? But at the same time, like, no, she's being dead serious to me right now.
No,
Like
yeah.
there are things like they won't like I can't even see myself doing. Like I
Yeah.
can't see, doing half the things like a lot of family members or other races do for their families. I'm just like, that's so interesting how that that type of upbringing led them to that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Like, you know how some people in some races, they don't say like auntie or uncle, or
Mhm.
like they just call them by their name, or even
I
their
always think that's so
parents.
weird. I know,
Yeah.
I think it was always so weird. I remember I tried doing that once. I like tried to call my uncle by his first name and he gave me like the dirtiest glare in the world. I'm just like, sorry, Tito. Just sorry. Like I'm
No,
like going
yeah.
back into my shell. I'm like, I'm so sorry.
One of my
Like it feels
friends,
weird.
she would call her parents just by their names. And so I was like, oh, what do I call them? And she said, like, just their name, just their first names. And I was like, no, I can't. Like,
I have to call them
everyone's,
auntie or uncle. Like
yeah,
I can't.
everyone's auntie or uncle. You don't just say their name. It's,
Unless you give me reason to disrespect you.
oh, damn.
Then maybe. I must really not like you to disrespect you. There's one person. There's one person I know you probably know who I'm talking about, but that's about it.
I was like thinking back.
But it feels so weird though, honestly. Or even like okay, like oh, I guess it's more I don't know. Like you said like your past relationships were like Filipinos, right?
Not all of them, but they were
Okay,
all.
did you ever have like because like I know with my ex, one of my ex, I had him introduce, when I introduced them, and like I was like, "Oh, you call them auntie and uncle, don't call them by their first names," and it was weird to him. And then when it came to his mom, I was like, I'll just call you auntie because or tia because like I feel weird calling you by your first name, or like
Yeah.
I'll be like Mrs. blah blah blah, or be like, and then I think later on the relationship was like, I think she even said, "Oh, you can just call me mom." I'm like, okay, but it was just
Oh,
like
dang.
I was like,
Mom.
okay. And so it's like there's like different like like those type of relationships. It's just like I always felt weird.
Yeah. It
I
does
don't
feel
know.
weird.
It does. It's just like,
Like,
oh,
that's
what did I
that's my
call you?
auntie.
Yeah, I was just like, what did I call you? It's so weird. But I don't know. I think it's always, yeah. It's the respect also. I think that goes back with our other conversations, like how you respect your elders is differently and for different types of ethnicities.
Hmm.
I always find that interesting because it's just like, hmm. Especially when I'm watching movies, I'm like, wow, I don't think I could ever talk like that to my family members.
It's weird. Like with my Korean friend, I wouldn't call her mom by her name. I mean, I would call her mom, but in
Mm-hmm.
Korean. But with my other
Say it.
friend,
Say it.
that's
What do
okay.
you call her? What does it say?
I call her
What?
mom. Yeah.
Oh no, there's another word. Was it? There's another
Listen,
word.
I wouldn't even speak Tagalog on here, so I'm not trying to get
You,
flamed by my Korean friends.
yeah. Okay. Anyway, you're saying.
But yeah, like I would call her mom, and then with my other friend, I would just call her mom by her name. It's like just because the different cultures.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was weird.
It gets confusing sometimes. Yeah, I try. Even like my friends, like every time like my friend would answer her phone, like it's her mom, I'd always be like, "Oh, tell your mom I said hi," or I'd be like, "Hi, tita."
Yeah.
Like it always feels weird. And then have you ever whether it's like a family party or just like a Filipino party, you don't really know the other guests, and like your parents would be like, "Oh, this is your tita, blah blah blah," and then later on you forget all the titas and
Yeah.
titos names, so you just literally call
You
them
just say
all tita
tita.
to stay on the. Oh my God, that's happened to me so many times. I know this is relatable. Come on, guys, like where you just
I
you just
mean,
don't remember anyone's
do
names,
they really
whether the
expect you to remember all their names and you don't really know them?
Exactly. I always like especially when I was younger, my parents would like where we go to like one of their friends' houses, and they'll be like, "Oh, this is your tito, blah blah blah.
Mhm.
This is your tita, blah blah blah." I'll be like, "Oh, hi tita, hi tito," and then like if I see them again, like I recognize their face, but I don't know their names, so
Yeah,
I'll be like,
yeah.
"Oh, hi tita, hi tita." I would just be like that all the time. And then like I remember this one time, me and my sister we were at the mall and we saw like these two like one of my dad's like coworkers and friends, and we walked after we like said hi, we walked past them. I remember I was like, "Who were they again?" I'm like, "I don't know." They work for dad. I don't know. They're nurses with dad. I don't know, man. Who knows?
Honestly, for a while, that's how I was with my exes, aunties and uncles, because I didn't, I couldn't remember their names. Even though, like, we saw them often, like, I just couldn't remember their names, so everyone was just Tito and Tita. But I think
Yeah.
even he didn't know sometimes, so.
I told you, it's relatable. I will bet money on how many Filipinos forget other Filipino names and they just call them tito and tita. Like, it's a relatable factor. Like, let's be real.
Yeah, you can't. Even if you don't know them that well,
Yeah,
you can't
exactly.
expect me to remember your name. Or when they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, you met them when you were like 10." It's
Oh,
like,
yeah. I love how,
okay.
like, my parents do that to me or no, my mom does that to me all the time. Be like, oh, yeah, you met them when you were blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I was I was 10, I was 5. Like you really think I'm gonna remember their names now? Or especially like your godparents, because you know, us Filipinos, we have so many
Oh,
godparents.
true.
So it's just like I remember half of the like I remember I met one of my godparents recently and I was just like, what's her name again? What's her name again? And it just like it took I know her name now, but like it took a minute for it to click. And I just think it's funny. It's very relatable.
That's just
Sad
how
but
it is.
relatable.
I
Yeah.
know, right?
We love our Filipinos. We love being Filipinos. There's so many
Yeah.
relatable not issues, factors
I
that it feels
think
like,
that's why we naturally become friends.
yeah,
Because it's
because
so relatable.
we have so many of the similar stories.
Yeah, we understand.
Yeah, exactly. Like if we told these stories to like our other friends who I I think even with our Asian friends, like any race of Asian, I think they'll still be relatable to also.
Yeah.
But if we told them to someone outside of like the Asian culture, Asian community, they'd be like, "What the hell?" They'd just
They
like look
just
at us
don't
weird,
get
be
it.
like, "What?" Yeah, they won't get it. They won't understand it. I'm sorry.
Even if
No
there's
matter how
something
much we
similar.
explain.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
even
it's
if
it's not the same.
yeah, there's some things that probably might they'd be like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I went." Like, no, I don't think you did.
It's like similar, but it's different at the
Totally
same
different.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's really interesting and it's funny.
it is.
It is. Our families really do like influence a lot of how we are brought up, on
Hmm.
how we act, and like influence our decisions in life, influence what happens, influence just everything, really. It's like a whole list.
It does. And it comes like full circle because if you think about
It
it,
really does. It really
it
does.
all
Like,
influences you in so many ways.
it could influence you to sticking to what you know, or knowing that, hey, I think it's time to let's make a change, you know? Yeah,
All right. Is there anything else you want to add or talk about?
not that I could think of. Feels like I could talk so much about family. Just
Well, we can.
we could.
We
We can
really
say
could.
that for another day. I have a feeling like because how big family can be, this could be sprinkled into a whole lot of other topics, a whole
Oh,
lot of
yeah,
different
for sure.
upbringings and anything really, because family is such a big part of us, of our own inner selves, our own as who we are. Um, it's just something really important to know that no matter how different you were raised or how different you may feel, that you're not really alone, because like there's so many other people who were raised the same way as you. They could have been, other similar stories, maybe a little bit different. And you just never really know unless, you talk to someone.
I'm curious to hear about other people's experiences with their
Mhm.
family. I mean, rather like as a younger sibling or as a different race,
Other
because we talked a lot about Filipino culture today.
Mhm.
So I think having other people's insight would be really interesting.
Mhm. Like you never know, maybe someone else who isn't Filipino were like, "You know what? You like our stories probably could have been very similar to yours too." You know, it'll be interesting to hear and see.
Well, if anyone watching would like to share their experiences, Filipino or not,
Mhm.
please feel free to in the comments. We are interested in
Yeah,
learning.
definitely.
Yeah,
Educate us.
please. Well,
Yes.
um, yeah, I guess that's all for today, huh? I don't know if you said anything. It didn't pick
Uh,
up.
oh, did it not?
No.
Oh, I think I said that really softly. Sorry, but yeah, no. Oh, yeah. If anyone wants to leave a story, would love to hear it. I think yeah. I think today's conversation it went really well. Talking about us Filipinos.
I think viewers got to know us a little more,
Yeah.
and maybe non Filipino viewers got to know a little more about the Filipino culture too.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you everybody for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed our conversation today. Oh, did you want to say something?
Oh no, sorry. I just opened my mouth.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay. Well, um, yeah, thank you everyone. Like and subscribe, and please leave a comment down below.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for joining us and joining our conversation. I hope you guys all had a great holiday and that we learned a lot today, hopefully about ourselves, and hopefully we can learn more with each other. Like Maribel said, you can leave a comment, like, share. You could catch us on YouTube or Spotify. So, F2U, fold your feelings to start your healing.
Bye.
Bye.